Hi everybody, so sorry it's been a while since you've seen me last record. I think if you clicked on this video, you're probably thinking, why hasn't this deck profile been up sooner? Because, well, if you know me, you know that this deck profile was coming at some point just based off my selections of other decks in the past. So anyway, first off, this deck profile was supposed to be uploaded a week ago and probably even the week before that. Things just got busy, and if you happen to know where I reside, which is in the beautiful state of Oregon, we were kind of on fire not too long ago, and it was very depressing. It was very smoky, hazy, and just not very fun. So I really just didn't feel like recording, to be honest with you, so I did it and I put it off. But now we can breathe without, being afraid of anything else except Rona. But it is fun, so I'm going to try and explain this deck as best I can. It is a deck that is more on the expensive side, so if you're looking for budget options, this is not an option that you should be looking at. A lot of people have been asking me my opinion on the Blademaster variant, because Blademaster got released in this set as well for Kagero. I do have Blademaster stuff. I'm still working on the deck list for it. So if you want to see a Blademaster deck profile, it will happen at some point. I don't want to give you a date. I'm still working on the deck list. Anybody who knows me knows I'm extremely picky when it comes to my deck lists. So we're going to get into this deck profile, and I'm going to explain it as best I can. So again, I'm very sorry that it's been a long wait, because I've had a lot of people message me like, hey, where's your Dragonic Overlord, the cross deck? We know you're building it. Where is it? So anyway, guys, I'm sorry for the long wait, and here it is. So, one sec. There we go. So for the starter, I actually shelled out a little extra money and got the SP Conroe for the deck, because literally with this in the deck now, every card is foil, and I do like my shiny cards. So Conroe, there's really nothing different about him than our last starter, except he has that extra line of text that says, when you ride your grade 1, if your opponent is already at grade 1, you get to add your Quick Shield to your hand. And yes, I also have the Kagero SP Quick Shield, because I'm a rarity whore. Leave me alone. So for triggers, I'm not going to really go into any deep explanation here. We're playing 8 crits, 4 draw, 4 heal, 4 being, 4 draw sentinels. If you know anything about this deck, you know what it does, and you know how hard it smacks really, really quick. And if you're not prepared to deal with it, it can be very dangerous. I even have a couple different builds of this deck, one of which plays literally 16 critical, and literally just focuses on smacking your opponent as hard as possible on your X turns, where you're using the X's skill. But this is the best version of it, because you do want your heals and you still want your draws. But the 16 crit version is viable. I might show off a 16 crit version maybe sometime down the road. But as of right now, if this was going to be in tournament play, it would be just like this. Grade 1s, it's pretty uneventful, to be honest with you, because we still are playing our 4 copies of Flame of Hope Eremo. This grade 1 is pretty much still in Kagero, because we haven't been given a better option to replace. I don't know if Eramo's a guy or a girl, so we just don't have a better option. But Eremo is a very good, solid option. It always boosts for 11. If a rear guard is retired from our opponent's field during our turn, we can retire Eremo to draw a card and countercharge 1. So gives us a very good option there. So Eremo is still very much needed in this deck, just for resource management. Next, 4 copies of our new Grade 3 Searcha, Lava Flow Dragon. Lava Flow Dragon pretty much has 2 skills. One, when it's on the Vanguard or Rearguard circle. If we have more Rearguards than our opponent does, it gets +5. And then when it's placed, whether on Vanguard or Rearguard, we get to check the top 5 cards of our deck. If there's a Grade 3 from among those, we get to add that to our hand and then discard 1 card from our hand. This is usually used to just search the top 5 for a copy of the end, and then we ditch it to fuel one of our Grade 2s, which we'll get to here in a second. Next, 4 copies of Heat Shot Dragon. Heat Shot Dragon is pretty much the Cross's best buddy. Whenever this is placed on the Vanguard circle, you can discard a card to draw a card, so that's nice. Hand filtering is never bad, but its other skill is if the unit, at the end of the battle, if it boosted a Grade 3 unit and that Grade 3 stands, he gets to stand up as well. So basically, on all the attacks that the Cross restands, Heat Shot will get to stand up with him and continue giving him that 8k boost. So that's the only Grade 1s. It's pretty basic, but pretty effective. Grade 2s, 4 copies of the best Grade 3 Searcher in the game right now. 4 copies of Ignorode Dragon. Ignorode Dragon, whenever it's placed on the Vanguard or the Rearguard circle, you may search the top 7 cards of your deck for a copy of Dragonic Overlord, the Cross, or X, whatever you want to call him, and add it to your hand. That's it. You don't have to discard, you don't have to pay a counterblast, you don't have to pay a soul blast, nothing. You just look at the top 7. If he's there, you add it, and it's a free card. His other skill is whenever your Vanguard attacks, if your hand has less than 4 cards in it, he gains 5,000 power. So really good because he combos well with the X, and just in general, he's going to be a big swinger by the time you're done with your Dragonic Overlord the X combo. Next, 4 copies of Torrid Cannon Dragon. I think that's how you say that. He's basically a better version of Berserk Dragon. Once per turn, you may counterblast 1 and put a normal unit from your drop zone on the bottom of your deck. Choose one of your opponent's Grade 2 or less Rearguards and retire it. And then if your hand has 4 or less cards, you may draw 1. Combos well with the Cross too. And he lets you recycle cards to your deck. And he pops a unit, so he's really good. Next, we play 3 copies of Berserk Dragon. Berserk Dragon is still probably the go-to ride in most Kagro decks, to be honest with you. In this deck, it doesn't really matter, though. Any of these 3 right here are pretty good for your ride target, to be honest with you. Berserk Dragon, as we know, when it's placed, whether on Vanguard or Rearguard Circle, Counterblast 1, Soul Blast 1, and retire one of your opponent's Rearguards. But if he's on your Vanguard Circle, you also get to draw a card, which is nice. And then also, if we have more Rearguards than our opponent does, if he's a Rearguard, he swings for 13. So, that's nice. And then finally, we play 2 copies of Wyvern Strike Ducat, I think is how you pronounce that. Ducat is a... This card literally steals games. It is pretty amazing, actually. So, when he's on the Rearguard, you may counterblast 1 and place him into your soul. Choose one of your Dragonic Overlord the ends, and when your opponent would call from his or her hand to guard during that battle, that unit attacked, meaning the end, this turn, he or she must call 2 or more at the same time. This works really effectively since our Vanguard is going to get 3 attacks every time we do our Dragonic Overlord the X full combo. So that means on all 3 of those attacks, if your opponent even wants to nullify it, not only do they have to lay down their Nullify or Sentinel, they have to lay down an additional card. So this card will literally eat through their hand crazy fast. And if you're going first and you get to Grade 3 first, this card most of the time will steal you the game because your opponent literally just does not have the hand to guard. So he is good at 2 of. I could see actually dropping a Torrid Cannon possibly and putting in a third. But, you know, that's player preference. This works well. The grade 2s for this deck are as solid as it's ever been for Kagero, to be honest with you, so we really don't have any room to complain, especially when we have a grade 2 unit that not only acts as a consistency piece that helps us maintain getting our boss as quick as possible. It doesn't have a cost for us doing that, and he serves as a good partner, because keep in mind, if our Vanguard swings 3 times, he'll be 25k by himself without a trigger or a force marker under him. So that's insane. So we really don't have room to complain. Then for our grade 3s, this is pretty self-explanatory. We're playing 4 copies of Dragonic Overlord the End, and then we're playing 4 copies of our main man, Dragonic Overlord the Cross. So, I remember when the End came out, he really didn't get much time in the spotlight because he is extremely situational, and you have to set up your entire turn around being able to get the full advantage out of his ability. So he really fell in price. He was as low as like $6 and $7 a copy at one point, which is criminal considering when Vanguard, for those of you who may not play during the old days of Vanguard, and I'm talking back during the original set 5, when Majesty Lord Blaster in the End and PBD came out, even when the End was losing popularity, he stayed at $20 just because of how good he was. This card, however, by himself, nowhere near scratched how good the End was back in the day. But Bushiroad decided to remind people how threatening the Overlord can be, and they printed Dragonic Overlord the X with some amazing skills. So let's go over them real quick. So the first skill is the one we use for our combo. It's once per turn. You may Soul Blast one, which is pretty rare for the Overlord, because usually his skills always require counterblasts. I think this is the first Overlord that requires a Soul Blast to activate his main skill. So Soul Blast 1, search your deck for a copy of any card with Overlord in its card name that is different than this unit. So obviously you're going to search out another form of Overlord that is not the X. So your options would be the original Dragonic Overlord the End, or Dragonic Overlord the Great. So you have 3 options there. Search out for that unit that is different than this one, put it into this unit's soul, and shuffle your deck. This unit gets all the cards' names and abilities until the end of turn. So, basically, Dragonic Overlord the X puts the End in his soul, and Dragonic Overlord the X becomes the End, along with being considered the X, and gains all of these abilities. So in a way, it's kind of a callback also to the original Dragonic Overlord the X that legioned with the End. So, real quickly, let's read the End's skills here. So the End's first skill is, at the end of the battle that it attacked, activate one of the effects below, but you cannot activate the same effect in the same turn, so you could only use both of these effects once. If your hand is 4 or less, Counterblast 1, Soul Blast 1, stand this unit, and it gets -1 drive until end of turn. And then its other skill is, if your soul has an Overlord in its card name, discard 3 cards from your hand, stand this unit, it gets plus 10,000 power and -1 drive until end of turn. So the reason that the X makes the End insane is this second skill. Dragonic Overlord the X, his second skill reads like this. When your card effect would count the number of cards in your hand, it is regarded as 0. So that means you have full access to every card skill that you need that has a restriction. And it will basically be treated as that it thinks your hand is 0. No matter if you're literally holding 0 cards, or you could be holding as many as you want. So that makes the X being able to basically take all of the End's skill with none of the negatives to it. So this card here, Ignoroad Dragon, the one that says if your Vanguard attacks and your hand has 4 or less cards in it, he gains 5k. When you're on the X, it will always happen. When you use Torrid Cannon Dragon's effect, his draw 1 effect will always happen. That's why the X is so good in this deck, because he takes all the negative away from every one of your cards. And then the Dragonic Overlord, the X's 3rd skill reads, if your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, this drive cannot become 0 or less. So what that means, if you go first, you're going to swing for the first time. Then you're going to activate the end's 2nd skill, most likely, which is the one where you discard 3 cards and gain 10k, and then restand and lose 1 drive check. Then you'll swing the 2nd time, and then after that attack, you're going to Counterblast 1 and Soul Blast 1, and he will stand and then attack a 3rd time. And he'll lose another drive check. Now, if your opponent is at grade 2, on your 3rd attack, you won't get any drive checks with your Vanguard. It'll just be an attack, and if they block it, you don't get drive checks at all. If they take it, they take it. However, if your opponent is on grade 3, he will always have at least 1 drive check. So, if your opponent is on grade 3, you're at least always going to be adding... You're going to add 4 cards to your hand off drive checks as opposed to just 3. So... that's pretty much the idea. If you go first, in other words, you're going to hit grade 3 before your opponent, you're going to be throwing at least a 30-some thousand power attack, usually somewhere in there. Well, no, it's going to be 21 at first, assuming you get Heat Shot Dragon behind the cross. And then with your triggers, you can just make it bigger and bigger. So that's pretty much it, guys. It's really not... I don't want to present this that it's rocket science or some kind of deep skill-oriented combo, because it's really not. It's highly effective. It's really simple. But literally just these 8 cards right here, this is quite a big chunk of the money that you will spend into building this deck. Usually, you're going to go to Force 2 when you ride grade 3, so that way on all 3 attacks, your crit is at least always +1. So each attack that lands is going to deal at least 2 damage. So, anyways, that is my Dragonic Overlord the X standard deck profile. Again, sorry that you guys had to wait a little bit longer than I would have liked for this, but life happened. Actually, it should be 2020 happened, but anywho. Anyway, guys, this deck is really fun to play. I'm really I really like it for obvious reasons that it's Kagero, but it is a deck that does require a little bit of luck to survive, especially if your opponent goes first and they get the full Dragonic Overlord the X skill off, which is 9 times out of 10 going to happen, because this deck is literally, if the person who you're playing against is smart, they have literally built the deck and engineered it to where that is going to happen all the time. Unless they get grade stuck, which can happen, but it's not going to be an occurrence that happens, all the time. So anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this. If you have any questions on the deck or anything, I'm happy to answer them. One thing I will say real quick, because I know it's going to get asked, some people are thinking about trying to run the Great as the other Overlord that you have the X copy. The reason I wouldn't even consider the Great is this. Dragonic Overlord the Great, whenever he's placed, you get to summon Neoflame from the graveyard, or the drop zone. When you use the X's skill, all he gains is the name and the abilities. He doesn't. It's not considered placed, so you're not going to gain the summon Neoflame effect. So in order to gain full advantage of having the Great in the soul of the X and gaining all that skill, you'll have to make sure you have Neoflame either on your field or in your hand. And I just don't... if your opponent figures out that you're using the Great and you are foolish enough to put Neoflame on the field, your opponent is going to do everything they can to take Neoflame out if they know that that's how it works, and it's just then not going to benefit you the most bang for your buck and cost that you're paying. So I wouldn't recommend using the Great with this. The End is just too good, and I think he's the clear-cut only option, honestly. So anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this. Make sure you leave a like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff, and I will see you in my next video, which will be my very first premium deck profile for this channel, and it will be on Kagero, so stay tuned for that. Anyway, guys, hope you're all doing well and you're staying safe. See you later.